Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Today we have Mr. Vivek Vanwari on us on our podcast. He is a very experienced professional in supply chain and logistics. He has started his career in 1998 from Dubai. He has worked with Kuehne Nagel for 17 years on different nine positions. Very much big experience he got. And 3 years ago, Mr. Vivek has started his own consultancy firm for the logistic companies who want to scale up their business. So, welcome, Mr. Vivek. How are you feeling, sir?
Thank you, Sourav, for having me. It's very nice to speak to you again. Thank you for arranging this.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
It
So,
has, yes.
how much I talk about you will always be lesser. I would like you to tell people about yourself so that they would know you and they would know about your experience.
Yeah, I appreciated the shout out. Yeah, yeah. I've been in this for 26 years now. Worked in three different countries, and about 3 years ago, started my own firm out of Chicago. In things are excellent. I'm helping a lot of different types of logistics companies scale up their business. Last year was pretty tough for a lot of people to acquire new accounts. Also we have people who want to come to the US and they struggle to understand this country. It is not an easy country to understand from the outside. So this is where I come in. I help out people, help them set up, help them scale up their business. Yeah.
So, logistic, as we know, it's a very tough job. So, what motivated you to come into logistics?
I think almost everybody on this planet has a story about going into logistics without any logistics background. I have a degree in psychology, and never had in my life I thought that I would ever this thing. So I was in Dubai on a holiday, and I loved the place, and I was like, let's look for a job here. And I walked into a forwarder's office and asked for a sales job. Within a month, I fell in love with it. I had never seen a container in my life. Never, never ever. So, and I was like, this is just fantastic. And 26 years later, here I am, worked in, I don't know, 11, 12 different positions in two different companies, and now my own setup. I could not have asked for a better career.
So exactly, that is why I wanted you as my guest because the thing I have seen a lot of people in logistics, who are at very junior positions. Some are supervisors as of now. Some are branch managers. Some are just working as an independent guys booking shipment for different companies. And you would be a great example for them. And they can learn a lot from you. As you said, you have been to three different countries. I just wanted to know how this environment is different. Like in India, the way people, perceive logistics and the way people, perceive in USA. How it is there, how people perceive it.
The fundamental difference is that logistics is treated in India as a predominantly reactive process. Logistics is a lot to do, let's say, with problem solving. You're continuously looking at problems to solve. So how it works in not so easy to make a general comment, but just to understand, the psychology, the approaches, here in the US, you're constantly looking at making the process efficient, and you're not making the same mistake again. So the measures that are done are preventative; they're not reactive. Whereas in India, sometimes you feel that people are always reacting to problems. And it should not be so because, in one way, India is able to adopt technology much faster because the cost of adoption is much lower in India. So, in that lies an opportunity. So, if more companies are looking towards processes and then adopt technology to support those processes, you can actually leapfrog any country on this planet.
Yes, sir. And how do you describe the currently, like how people are perceiving logistics in USA? For example, so in India now, where I have seen is like, as per my experience, the logistic no, cost is very lesser in India. If I have to deliver a shipment for let's say 300, 400 kilometers in India, versus I have to deliver 300, 400 kilometers elsewhere in the world. The cost of operation is really very low.
So actually, this is a bit of a misnomer. You are right.
Mhm,
However, when you dig a little bit deeper around below the surface, this
mhm,
is a misnomer. This is a misconception. So if you look at the policy that the government has come up with,
mhm.
the cost to India's GDP is around 13%
Yeah,
for logistics. Okay, so that's very high,
30
actually. 1-3.
news for me.
So
Really like to know more about it. Yeah, please.
yeah, so this is where when the policy came out about a year and a half, 2 years ago, the whole idea was to get it like a Western economy or a very efficiently logistics oriented economy where the cost of logistics to GDP is in the 9 to 10% range. So that recognition itself in India was so important, and then double with that the expeditious way to make infrastructure, to come up with new ports, to come up with new infrastructure to support the ports. The land side infrastructure is as important as the port side infrastructure. So these efforts that are being made for highways and so on and so forth will cut down the logistics cost. So it's a little bit of a misnomer. On a per mile basis, per kilometer basis, you might feel that the um, cost is very low, but actually it's not.
Okay, that's it. So, with us, what I've seen is like I'm from core logistics, that means land transportation. I'm domestic one. But how does it change? If I have to ask a very specific questions with you, what are the key trends that shapes our industry in different countries such as USA and India? What are the key trends which shape it?
So, we've come through a very, very difficult period after COVID to manage the entire supply chain end to end. Now, this was remarkable in terms of how all the countries managed a situation which was so difficult. And I think the management was done extremely well. I think the logistics industry did a terrific job compared to some other industries. For example, in spite of extremely high demand, the logistics companies went remote and were able to manage processes of global trade without really that much of a problem. You can blame congestion, you can blame everything that you want, but the reality is the logistics industry really stood out as somebody who did a job very, very well. I think those lessons cannot be forgotten. Today, again, we are in a bit of a crisis mode in a certain part of the world. 13% of the global trade has been impacted by the Red Sea crisis. So those lessons are being learned. Some companies are not forgetting those lessons, and the ability to now navigate through any crisis. Look, crisis has been there every year. Something has happened in the freight industry. Something major has happened every year in the freight industry. There's something. However, COVID was a complete outlier, and now this Red Sea situation is also a little bit of an outlier. I think the industry is doing a terrific job given the circumstances.
Mhm. Actually, as for me, not just this, crisis, they come and they go. But one thing I must say, I see, being in logistics and supply chain, I happen to meet different people from different backgrounds, from different industries. But one thing which I have seen in our industry, sir, that is, the passion these guys have, you know. And I happen to, travel in different part of India. Sometimes I'm in southern part of India, sometimes I'm in northern part of India, central. One thing which I have seen is common, that is the passion these guys have. So my question next to you would be, how do you think these cultural nuances, affect the process and the working in different
That's a
countries?
very, very good question. I think there's a lot of similarity between both the countries in India and US. People are curious. People realize when they get into the industry that they actually have no idea what this industry is about. And the more curious you are, the more you will learn about the industry. The opportunities are just incredible. The good guys who are curious, who are passionate, will continue to rise up. I was talking to two fresh graduates from, I was hiring an intern, and I was talking to two fresh graduates who had just finished or were on the verge of finishing their masters in supply chain. And their ideas, their concepts, their understanding, their attitude was remarkable, absolutely fantastic. I was almost at the point of being envious that when I was a 20, 21, 22-year old, I did not have this kind of understanding of supply chain or this kind of understanding of logistics. And to see this come through, to see this, we will always be an unsexy industry. It's never going to change. It's just the way it is,
I
you
have
yeah. Yeah, you will not be able to explain to your family what you do for the rest of your life. So I still can't explain it, what I do, so
Fortunately, I'm third generation in supply chain and logistics for my family. But yeah, it is very hard for my friends to tell, for them, transportation is equivalent to logistics and supply chain movement. So I totally agree with you, sir, when it comes to these things.
they visualize you're a truck driver going from
Yeah, yeah,
you
that's
know from Pune to Vijayawada or something like that. Yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't work like that.
exactly. Exactly. But so one thing I was actually with my friend once. He's a software developer, and he was like, "Yeah, see, how we are shaping the world. See the technologies now. It's made life easy for the people." I just told him two things, and I would like you to just rectify me if I'm wrong somewhere. First was, see, we somehow are able to identify the cost of your product that you're using. That's one thing I told him. Second is, yes, it is very important, the technology part these days, but we are also important. As COVID showed everyone the importance of logistics. So I would like you to comment on this too.
You're 100% right in this, 200% right on this. The amount of tech that can make things efficient is extraordinary, what it's doing now, and especially in the last 5 years. However, our industry is extremely nuanced. The problems and the variables are so many that there is no playbook. There is no one thing that can solve things. So you have to keep continue to chip away. If you have an understanding of logistics, the experience that you have in solving problems will never be able, you can't automate it after a certain point. Up to a certain point you can do things, but after a certain point you cannot automate your out of way out of it. You still will always need basic understanding of logistics, which and so that you can look at the problems and solve it.
So, but the technologies like, see, just I've visited deliveries warehouse a few days ago, and I visited FedEx, in airport. They have automated a lot, like, the warehouses, like most of them are tech-based now. Auto sorting of product is there. Do you think that is important? Like that, how it is shaping our industry?
Extremely important, because human errors will go down, because picking and packing and wrong tags cost a lot of wrong deliveries, whereas automation will completely take that away. Even with labor cost, there is a lot of inefficiency. So cost of labor is not the only driving reason to automate warehouses. There's a lot of upside in automating warehouses.
Mhm. So when we talk about technology, I have certain questionnaires coming forward. First is just having a website or a software is enough. Like, what are the different aspects you suggest a company should have in terms of technology?
Yeah, the type of company, logistics company you have is so wide that no answer will fit all at the end of the day. There are still people in the industry who are still, on pen and paper and Excel sheets, and it works. The job gets done. It will be wrong on anybody's part to say that the job doesn't get done. But they will always remain a small company. They will never be able to use their know-how to scale up. If you want to scale up, you must know how to replicate your processes. To replicate your processes, you need the right balance between automation of tech and the people that you have. So if you don't have the processes in place, you will never be able to scale up. You can have all the tech on the planet. If you don't have underlying processes in place, you cannot scale up.
Interesting. So I'd like to discuss it later more. And so one thing I
Look
want to
at one example, right? If you went to this delivery warehouse,
yes, yes.
if every warehouse of delivery followed its own process, did its own way, managed its own thing, somebody was on Excel, somebody was on the latest tech, it will not work. If they have 30 warehouses, whoever has 30 warehouses in India or the US, the warehouse, when you enter, you cannot see the difference. There is no difference. You will forget which city or which town you're in. The process and the tech that they're being used is exactly the same. So why is it different for any other part of logistics? It's not actually. So if you have a universal process together with a small bit of adjustment for your local market, what works in Ludhiana, India will not work in Fort Wayne, Indiana in the US. So it doesn't, but you can still have one base framework and have the process in both the countries similar for the same type of business you're doing.
So, just continuation to this question, I have one more question. Is there any noticeable difference in adoption of technology? Like you have worked in India also, you're working in USA also. Have you noticed, a noticeable difference in adoption of technology?
Yes, I think early adoption in the US is much better. Here, people are willing to take more risk to lap up technology, even though the tech is not fully mature. So, you'll see companies, even with 5 people, who are using a lot of online portals, for example, to manage supply chain. And this equivalent customer with 5, 10 people, 15 people agency doing something will probably be very hesitant because they see it as a cost. They don't see it as an investment. That's the key difference.
And now I can, yes, actually, this is something I can echo with you because I've seen, many people who are working on a very lower platform or a three-tier city in India are very much reluctant to technology than those who are from tier one. I can totally echo with you. Is the same between India and USA also? You find the same difference?
No. Yeah, that's where I feel that you will go to any small city also. It's still very relationship driven, but the adoption of tools to make sure that their job is getting done more efficiently is slightly higher. So they don't see it purely as a cost. This is the mindset thing. So when you see things as a cost, you don't see the value of it. You don't see it as an investment. You don't see how much this thing, because people think that I can always get this done by hiring somebody at a low cost. It doesn't work like that. So yes, you can hire somebody at a low cost, but you cannot scale up. You cannot grow your business.
Okay, so recently, I just had seen a news. Mr. Modi has invested a lot for the logistics in India. Many porting hubs are coming up, many logistics hubs are coming up in different part of India. So I just wanted to ask, what are the major challenges in terms of infrastructure that you see? Um,
The last 2 years are fantastic, actually. I think there is recognition at the national level in India for clear understanding of how big a role logistics plays in the health of the economy. Back to the earlier number that I gave you, between 13.3 or 13.6%, and bring it down below 10%. Once that happens, automatically you will see that there is tremendous amount of growth that is possible because of the infrastructure, this thing. There is also another opportunity for Indian companies, as I see it. Because of the size of the Indian market, these companies are no longer small. Today, good sized logistics company in India, let's say it's worth $50 million or $40 million. If you are at that scale, you should have the ability to go within Southeast Asia and other countries and replicate the process. So once you replicate the process, you become a regional player. And once you are a regional player, the amount of ability that you get as a company exponentially increases. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity in the next 5 years for a lot of these firms who are 2, 3, 5, 10 years, 15 years in the business and have reached this scale between 40 and $100 million of revenue to actually become far more process oriented. Once you get far more process oriented, have the right tech in place, you'll be able to replicate this in the region because there's a lot of similarities in Southeast Asia, Middle East, even North Asia to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what the Chinese have done. Today, Chinese are regional players. They are no longer national players. And that happened because their economic size in their own country was large.
Yeah,
Chinese,
must say their economy is growing very fast. But sir, do you think this after COVID, as we discussed last time offline also, the business of trade in China has decreased or it is not impacted?
no, it has decreased tremendously. In the US, imports from China from a dollar perspective is down to 2003 level.
Mm-hmm. So just see, China is far bigger than India, no? And the kind of technologies and the kind of infrastructure they have is, I would say, a bit better than India.
A lot better, yeah.
Have to suggest any of your client or any of your companies which are getting consultancy from you, the three top notch thing they must do to scale up, any three bullet points would be.
That's a very, very, very good question. The first one would be to uh, when you're sitting on freight. Let's say you're sitting on 5,000 tons of freight, of air freight coming. There is a way to capitalize and scale on that. So instead of going with something familiar, you should have clear idea of which market you can penetrate because you're already sitting on that volume. So when you have that kind of know-how, when you have that kind of buying power, there is a way to scale that up, which most Indian companies I see, I come across, make that mistake because they try and experiment with that. You cannot experiment with this. So you shouldn't be experimenting, which is kind of my second point. So sometimes what happens is you are familiar, you have somebody who you know well, who you trust, and you take that person and you put them in an overseas country, and you expect that the same amount of growth will come. Often enough, that is not the case because they have no understanding of the local way. Unless you've lived in the US, you have no understanding of how it works in the US. This is a common mistake made by everybody. It's like this. I am going to put a blog on this actually tomorrow. It's like,
Okay, I would love to be part of it.
it's like you watched every episode of Friends and you think you understand New York. Of
Yeah,
course you
this
don't.
is something which I have seen a lot. People just try to think. In fact, in India as well, sir, the kind of skill set required to work in northern part of India might
It's
not be
totally different.
southern part of India because the terrain is different.
Absolutely.
One thing, sir, I have this as a questionnaire also. I meet a lot of people, working in different positions. So, as per you, what are the skills? What are the skill set? What are the competencies it is required, for people in logistics for you?
Only one. Only one actually. It doesn't matter where you are on this planet. Yeah. I think the one competency that you need in logistics, which supersedes everything else, is when you promise something, deliver. Don't have to ask again. So when you've told a client, when you told an internal colleague, when you've told a boss, when you've told a manager, when you've told a subordinate, when you've told a vendor that I'm going to do this, get that done. So your ability to get that done on time or before time separates you from everybody else. If somebody has to follow up with you two, three times for getting the task done, then you will lose credibility. And at the end of the day, you can understand everything in our business. You will can be a master at our business. But if you don't know how to deliver on time, you will never ever ever grow. You will never ever have the credibility. People should not have to ask you for something. So once an agreement has been made, timeline has been made, you must deliver on it.
So this brings, a very important question that I have, and I was asking you offline also. For logistic, I think logistic and supply chain is more of a game of experience. Correct. It is the experience you have, working in different places and, in different conditions, in different pressure. Do you think this training and education, people are doing BBA in logistics and supply chain, people are doing MBA in logistics and supply chain, are they equivalent or are they better than the people who are working for, like, let's say 10 years, 15 years, 20 years in the same field? What do you
Um,
think?
So when somebody's got a degree in supply chain or a master's degree in supply chain, those fundamental understanding can never go away. Your your abilities of understanding the business will never go away. They stay with you with your life. However, these degrees are geared towards manufacturers and shippers. They are not geared towards logistics firms. So they
True.
don't teach you what logistics firms as such, logistics providers, logistics companies do as such. This is changing a little bit, but not fast enough. And everywhere in the world, it's the similar problem, except in Germany. Germany is like so far ahead when it teaches you exactly what. So I would recommend each and every person who's studying supply chain to go for 1 year internship. Take an internship, even if it doesn't pay you much money, it just barely covers your cost. Take an internship in the field of logistics, in the portion of logistics or a pillar of logistics that really interests you, and understand everything that goes on. And from there on, it's your ability to be curious and continue learning, because 26 years now in the business, sort of, and not one single day is the same. Not one.
This
It
is what
never
I
gets.
with see, I have been discussing a lot with you, regarding different objectives and stuff. The operations, let's talk about operation. People say operation is very easy in logistics. The kind of operation required in a branch. I'll talk about the land. Huh? I'm not a CEO of freight guy. I'm a very land. I have an experience in land transportation. The kind of experience required, the kind of operations required for a hub movement, which is a zonal hub, transit hub, and a branch operation. They are two are very different, sir.
Absolutely. And so look at your supervisor level, right? The supervisor level has an easy job. They're doing this job and they're just used to their day-to-day processes. How many supervisors do you know who spend after hours talking to colleague from another branch or a 4PL environment, not a 3PL environment, and understand what a 4PL environment is all about and how different a 4PL environment is compared to a 3PL environment? How many people put their hand up and this thing? So you see that the tendency is to, I want my next job, I want my next promotion, I want my next appraisal. But how much effort did you put in right now to really grow your responsibility and your understanding of the business? So there is so much in our business. And all you need to take is just one additional portion and get a clear understanding of how that works. And that's how your career will grow. If you stay in the same process, if you do the same thing, yeah, sure, you will grow 2, 3, 4%. That's not growth.
Again, so coming to the point again, I'll just went. Actually, there's a friend of mine who has started his own company, and he was hiring for people, and it's a good company. He got funded also. I won't take the name because of different issues. He was interviewing a guy from IIM, and he told me, Saurav, यार ये ना बंदा पेपर पे बहुत strong है. This guy is very strong on paper.
Mm,
I asked him two or three basic questions from the practical point of view. You know,
no idea.
he was bluffing that time.
Mm.
My question to you would be, sir, do you really think this top management guys who are coming and saying we have MBA or we are, bachelor's degree in supply chain management can beat a guy who is ground experience of 5 years, 6 years in logistics or freight forwarding for that matter?
Yeah, a combination of a good school with a good degree understanding together with experience is unbeatable.
So,
A pure equivalent understanding of the other two will be very, very difficult to compare, because it all boils down to attitude in our business. Actually, if you have the right attitude, if you are very curious, you are eager to take responsibility, and to my earlier point, you are constantly deliverable, you are constantly meeting your deliverables, so then you will always do very well wherever you are. Then it doesn't matter if you are, just a graduate doing from some degree which has nothing to do with logistics and supply chain.
So here in India, franchisee model of business is also increasing and booming. Most of the companies which are, increasing their network are mostly through third party agreement. or the franchisee part? Is it the same in USA also?
In certain parts of the business, yes. In certain parts of the business, no, because you're able to scale up using your own processes in parts of the country without any problem. Yeah. So you don't need that much of a franchisee model. There are good franchisee models who've been very, very successful, but dominant part of the business, they have their own network. They're able to raise the finance. They're able to replicate the process. They're building, getting their own tech to, manage the same processes. So you don't need to actually franchise out to somebody else. Yeah.
So how does it works in USA then? Franchising model is not so popular, or it
No, no, it works. Franchising, the size is so big. Just the domestic market here, purely domestic, is $1.7 trillion. This was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So, that kind of number is, larger than most economies on this planet, right? So,
this brings me to the last question I have for you for this particular episode, because I want you here a lot more times. It's just the beginning. What do you think are the future trends and challenges for our industry?
I think, that's a very, very good question. I think we are poised for the next 5 years extremely well. In India specifically, there's a ton of opportunity with the new infrastructure, with the new setup, with the new know-how that is coming through. Logistics is being talked about, and people are understanding that, this is a very, very, very viable career. E-commerce has taken off because of demand, and that in itself is an entire pillar which will drive a lot of the economy, which is not going away. It is only going to grow, it's only going to expand, it's only going to do well. And once you get into logistics from any segment, it doesn't matter what segment you are, you will find out that you know extremely little. I feel after 26 years that I know so little about our industry. And all the experience on the planet, there's so much to learn. There's so much. That's what makes it very exciting. That's what makes it interesting. So if you go with that mindset, you will never have a problem with your career. Never ever. Never ever.
So this brings me to the request that I want you to make to those people who are aspiring to be a logician or a supply chain guy or a freight forwarder. What are the things that you would like? What are the things you want to give them as an
I would, as in,
as
sorry,
a piece of advice? As a piece of advice.
you know, uh, um, don't get impacted by your peer group, just because the industry is unsexy. You will find that you become so good in logistics, and because of that, your understanding of geopolitics on this planet, on how world trade works, gets so big. You know about industries better than the other industries themselves know about it, because before it actually the problems happen, you are able to see it 2 months in advance, 3 months in advance, because the freight has not moved, international freight has not moved. So you are able to see things which are this thing. So this makes the job very, very interesting. You can on a day-to-day basis feel that this is boring, because this is not, your friends are not talking about it. They are not some social influencer doing content development on something. So it may not have the same sex appeal. But what is very, very interesting is, if you all have that personality, if you want to be curious, for the rest of your life, you will never have a single boring day. Never, ever. You'll never have the same day. You will wish there were days where it was same like yesterday. There is no monotony in this business, ever. There never will be.
Actually, thank you so much for this one thing, sir. And as you said, there are not many people talking about logistics. That's why I started this podcast, LogiTalks, because I want people to know, dude, okay, yes, we are not so popular, we are not social influencer, but we impact your life. This
Yeah,
is
every
why
day.
I started this, and thank you so much for being a guest here. And
Yeah.
no, a lot of people are going to ask you a lot many questions about freight forwarding, about other statistics, about how things works. There are a lot of people coming your way, so please be free. Please give them your time, and this is a request. Thank you for so much. Thank you so very
It's
much.
very, very nice to meet you. Thank you, Saurabh, for having me.
Thank you, sir. And one more thing, promise us that you will be back, because there are a lot of things I wanted to discuss with you, and this is
Sure
just the
thing.
beginning, actually.
Sure thing. Sure thing. All right.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.